Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but this time I'll be playing as the Link from Breath of the Wild. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but this is a video that several people have requested. I will only be allowed to use the Master Sword and the Hylian shield as my weapons, no bows, and yes, the Master Sword is unbreakable but only in the battle against Ganondorf. I won't be going around completing each of the temples, instead we're going to make it more difficult by defeating each of the enemy hordes and 6 bosses consecutively without rest, until we face the Demon King. I will only have 3 hearts, can't use fairies, and won't be able to increase any stats with food dishes. And with that said, let's begin. On the Great Sky Island we already obtained the Master Sword, but honestly it is of no use yet. I gathered some materials which won't be limited this time, but I won't overuse them either. I defeated enemies with environmental objects, and the first 4 shrines are easily completed without any weapons. As an extra fact, I will need to complete a total of 16 shrines to get the Master Sword. I really miss throwing these little guys off cliffs. Zelda gives me a hand and we send the Master Sword to the past. And now it's time to descend to the Hyrule surface. And I immediately died in the most unfortunate way possible. I went down to the surface as it should be and found some interesting and important materials. I entered the first of 4 shrines, one of the easiest. So that's another orb in the pocket. At the local landing, Puras called me after I almost lost my arm. On the way to the castle I entered this shrine, but I had to use the shrine's own weapons. Since I can only use the Master Sword and the Hylian shield, the shrine gets skipped. Poor Zelda left us and I was finally able to get the paraglider. I did a little bit of magic because our next objective is to find the cursed statue. I returned to the castle, but this time I ventured into the caves, sold my soul to the cursed statue to get the stamina puzzle, and by that way I didn't accidentally die by bombs in the caves. That's a progress. I sold a few materials to buy the first part of the Breath of the Wild Link outfit, the Hylian trousers. All that's left is the old hairband and the champion's tunic, which isn't exactly easy to get. I got one of these spheres to decorate the Christmas tree and headed towards Hatino village to get the next part of the outfit. I soared through the skies, admiring the beautiful landscapes, dodging enemies, and finally reached the village after a long journey. On the way to my old house I ran into a bunch of people. It looked like they were handing out rations or something. I gathered more ingredients and jumped into the well where I found the old hairband, one piece down. I entered the local shrine, which was more of the same, easy peasy. I traveled around Hyrule looking for more shrines and completed them to get 2 stamina wheels. In one shrine I had to throw objects to a golem, and just when I was about to, its arrow hit one of my bombs. F in the chat, folks. I kept arranging balls here and there, jumping, gliding, playing with sticks, until I came across the shrine where I had to defeat all enemies without using any weapons. So I dedicated myself to smashing them with a rock. Easy. I headed to the plateau since to get the champion's tunic. I needed to visit all the sorcerer statues in the depths. The plateau holds the first statue, well actually the second, because the first one is in local landing. A blood manicure. I threw an eye into the chasm, collected pows and mushrooms which will come handy, and took the eye to the statue. I found large pows and completed another shrine using my bombs. I tossed another eye into the chasm for the statue and only 2 more left. But first I ran into 2 more shrines on the plateau. And again more of the same. I threw the 3rd eye into the chasm, but this time the darn thing disappeared. There was literally nothing in the depths. I had to restart the game, throw it in first and then jump in after it, and this time nothing weird happened. However, strange things happen sometimes, but for the last eye I had to make a little airplane to take it to its destination. And we got the first sorcerer statue down, just 5 more to go. But I had forgotten that I could choose between an extra heart or stamina, which worked out great for me, for fewer shrines to complete. And with that extra container I finally had 2 stamina wheels, the minimum needed to put the Master Sword. I returned to the depths and managed to find the 3rd statue. Easy. The 4th one was more of the same, and for the 5th I had to go back to Frostlands, gather more pows and found the statue. For the 2nd to last I had to climb and sneak between rocks until I reached the giant. Only 1 more statue remained. I soared through the skies admiring the beautiful landscape, and the last statue was even easier, but I didn't have enough pows to get the tunic memories. So I dedicated myself to farming the remaining pows and defeating some enemies along the way. I collected the remaining pows and was able to obtain the legendary tunic of memories. Too bad that you can't see the enemy's health anymore. But now it's time to get the weapons. I literally spent all this time avoiding and killing enemies by throwing objects and using the Ultra Hand. I returned to the castle to look for the Hylian shield, the only shield I can use for this entire challenge. I went to the docks and obtained an Ice Climber, which I obviously had to throw away. and I literally waited 10 minutes for these cans to disappear. I don't understand what's happening in this game. First the thing and now this. But anyway, with a fire fruit I rebuild this chest with a shield. Only the Master Sword remains. I could do the entire Deku quest and defeat Phantom Ganon, but that takes too much time and it's possible to obtain the Master Sword without doing all of that. But first, I went to get some Sonai devices, and instead of waiting for the Light Dragon on the Island of Awakening or at a specific point, I decided to follow its route in reverse to see if I could find it at some point. I ran into Eldra, but this wasn't the dragon I was looking for, until in the distance near the volcano I saw the Light Dragon. I made a bike to get to its head and pull out the sword. Zelda literally suffers from this, but it's all for a greater good. So, ladies and gentlemen, we officially gathered the complete set. I cooked a few dishes to restore the hearts lost by the gloom and restore life, and I can only carry 10 of each type of dish. I fused a diamond to the shield, and this is my equipment for the 4 Demon King armies, 6 bosses and the 3 phases of Ganondorf. The Link's outfit from Breath of the Wild, a bow, a Hylian shield, the Master Sword which isn't completely unbreakable, some materials including bombs, fruits, mushrooms and others that will be important like some Sonai devices. And with that I had to head one last time to the castle, determined to defeat everything ahead. I dove into the chasm and the first obstacle on the path were the hordes. I had to confuse them with flowers to use a spring in this area and dodge them. I dodged the keys and was about to avoid the wide main liner, but in the end I decided to face it to get its horn, something that I hadn't planned on doing. For the liner I had to perfect parries and dodges, all to wait for the perfect moment to mount its back and hit it, so I wouldn't waste the durability of my Master Sword. A kiss got in my way and the liner killed me because I got overconfident, but nothing that couldn't be solved with a few more parries and back attacks. I collected the materials and with another spring I claimed this area. I defeated the ice keys with my shields, avoided like legs, dove down here, I blew up and burned the Gyptos, clearing the way with bombs, only to die again in the most ridiculous way possible. But despite that I made it to the sealed chamber. My equipment was practically the same and I jumped straight into the fight against the enemies. The bokoblins came first and I used my shield with a few dodges, confused the great bokoblin and I tried to defeat as many bokoblins as possible with parries and bombs, while the rest I took out with the sword attacks and I sent the biggest one into the void with an ice fruit. I disarmed the Lizalfos with a dozer fruit and defeat them similarly with parry bombs, stall attacks, and again I threw a few into the void since I had to conserve the durability of my Master Sword. The Gyptos were the easiest, they fell easily to dozer fruits, bombs and fire fruits, easy peasy. The moblins were a little bit more complicated but nothing too bad. Like the Lizalfos I disarmed them and took them down with some sword attacks, confused a few and froze them as well. Now the 6 bosses are coming up, but first let me remind you to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you want me to take on your challenge in Tears of the Kingdom, and if you want to see similar challenge in Echoes of Wisdom. Now Colguera is one of the easiest, but this time I don't have bow, so things are more complicated. You just have to dive straight into its weak points once it throws its ice spike at you. The first 3 are the easiest, but in the second phase things get a bit more complicated. I managed to break 2 of the weak points, but I couldn't dodge one of these tornadoes very well, so I had to repeat the armies and face Colguera again. And this time I didn't make the same mistake. Marble Goma is even easier than Colguera since you just need to send back its projectiles to reach the second phase, where you now have to escape the rock enclosure and continue sending back its attacks to defeat it. Magtarok is already more complicated. Normally I use a spear against it, but luckily the rare fruits are enough to pull it out of the mug and attack it. Doing this twice is enough to reach the second phase, where there's even more mug. Here I just had to be quick and try to stop it from jumping from puddle to puddle using my bombs. Doing this twice again was enough. The Queen Gyptos seems tricky since I still don't have a bow. The electric key size and the bombs are important for slowly chipping away at her health. I also used my sword and continued the same method until I reached the second phase. Here I had to destroy both of the hips and the Gyptos using my bombs. Honestly, I didn't expect the Queen to come down so I could attack her, but if she makes it this easy, I won't complain. I removed the fusion from my shield and attached a sonic cannon to it. I defeated the Queen and then it was time for the 6th construct. This one is tough, and even tougher now since I don't have a spear, but that's why I fused a cannon to my shield. I missed a cannon shot, but at least it didn't kill me with a single swipe. It's even possible to block the golem's cannon shots with a shield, as those do kill in one hit, so the strategy was to stun it with the shield and push it against the ropes with my sword. However, my sword was about to to rake, and I had to think another strategy. I used my bomb to push it, but I didn't have many left. In the second phase I realized that the shield has the perfect timing to push it little by little. I repeated this and it turned out to be easier than I thought, but I won't deny that it was nerve-wracking. The little ghost enemies are the last one before the big boss. My sword was about to break, and I couldn't just attack with my shield. I was attacked, so I used the bombs I had left to hit more than one at the same time, until I remembered that the Master Sword is unbreakable against Ganondorf but also against Phantom Ganon, so I literally made these little ghosts my minions. The second phase wasn't hard at all because a perfect dodge was enough to take out each ghost, and after defeating them I used my sword just to show that it does break, and I went straight for the source of the evil with no weapons. But it doesn't matter because even though the sword needs 10 minutes to recharge, the game doesn't care, and at this point you are given the fully regenerated sword. The first phase seems easy since I was able to parry a few attacks. I also did several perfect dodges enough to reveal his form infused by the secret stone. In this phase I kept dodging his attacks, even hitting some of the clones, and I kept attacking until I got to the 1 versus 1. It seemed easy, but the fight is far from over. The beams of the Master Sword are useless, but what does work is reflecting his curse out the orbs back at him with the sword. I got hit once, but I still had food to heal myself. In this phase I could even parry his attacks and send more orbs back at him, but I missed one, which almost broke my shield and allowed him to attack me. Despite this, I took a chance with more parries and continued attacking. I sent more orbs back without failing, and his health was almost gone, and with one final perfect dodge I was able to finish him off. Now all that's left is the final part of this adventure, defeating a demonic dragon of the biblical proportions. But this time we have the legendary sword that seals the darkness, and the shield that's about to break. I headed for the first weak point, which I destroyed easily. On my way to the second I was calmly flying when a projectile hit me and knocked off one heart. I didn't even heal the damage, but the second weak point fell just as easily. The same happened with the third and fourth points. The Master Sword makes quick work of these weak points, and there was only weak point left, glowing in this crimson light, the secret stone that he stole from Sonia. I launched myself at it so quickly that I didn't even give him a chance to fire a projectile from his mouth. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's how I beat Zelda Tears of the Kingdom as a Link from Breath of the Wild. Thanks to everyone who requested this challenge or something similar, only using the Master Sword and the Hylian shield. Don't forget to check out this other challenge on the channel, which is one of the most requested, so go ahead and click it.